At some point in life, you're going to have to figure out a path that is just for you. This is a hard thing to do, especially for a creative. Maybe you're talented in multiple areas. You have a gift of this, you have a gift of that, and you don't know which path to take. Or maybe you have the education and you don't know how to turn that into a career experience or maybe a business experience. That's what we're going to be talking about today is how to take the talents and gifts that you do have to find the right path just for you. Today in the Creative Den, we have RanDee, who is the founder and owner of Bodies Contemporary Co. And we're just going to talk about how she discovered a gift and how she found this path for her in her business. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. How's your day going so far?
Good. We're here.
Yeah.
Got a 50-minute drive out here through the desert.
Yeah.
Good though. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Of course.
It's cozy in here.
Yeah.
You can be chill and just share
Nice.
the Lord's word.
Let's do it. So the name of your company is called Bodies Contemporary Co.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Bodies is a contemporary dance company. I do all things dance right now. It's been what I've done since I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I've ventured into different avenues of business and kind of like landed in this space of like, no, I want to commit to dance. And there's other facets to complement a company in dance. But right now it's just about building the dance part. So, yeah.
Yeah. Why dance, though? You said you've been doing this since like a little kid, right?
Yeah. So I started when I was 3, fell in love with it. First, I was doing piano. They realized I was moving a lot on the piano when I was doing it. And then put me into ballet. And basically, I would scream and kick and cry and not want to leave the room. So it just kind of was history from there. Yeah. Growing up, I was like a competitive martial artist. So I was doing half and half. And like the deal was you get your black belt and then you can quit. So I got my black belt as fast as I could, and then just like full set dance until like the end of high school. Gotcha. And I stopped for a couple of years because everyone tells you that that's not the right career path. That you need to have a plan B. You need to go to school for your plan B. So I stopped for a couple of years. Started up again when I was like 21. Okay. Got my degree, and then just went into my career as like a teaching choreographer, dancer, around like 24. Okay. So
it's crazy that people say that, especially when it comes to the artistic side of things. And I am like a huge advocate for creativity because I believe that, the first thing we see God as a creative. That's the first thing he did. And so therefore, if we're created in his image, then we're meant to create things as well. And it's crazy that people try to diminish our creativity. And I feel like everyone is creative, we all have a creative gift, and life happens, such as people telling you dance is not the thing for you, and then eventually you have to try to rediscover that.
Yeah, and like at such a young age, you're so impressionable, right? So you're just kind of like, I don't want to be broke and, homeless or whatever they say is going to happen. Right. I don't want to be a starving artist, but then I do think that from a very young age, God impressed it on my heart very strongly. And I don't think that like that was considered because maybe I didn't know how to articulate that. So it was not until I stepped away that I realized like, oh, this is like what God created me to do. Like I'm not well without creativity in my life. Yeah. And there's not everyone's like that, but it's definitely how he coded me. It's like, it's in there.
That's cool. So from piano to martial art, and then you landed back in dance, and then you went to school for dance education. You gained all the knowledge, How is that transferring the knowledge that you have into real life experiences?
Yeah, I wasn't a strong dancer before. I think that's an important thing, like for my story to know going into college, because then I was not only learning for myself, but I was learning how to learn, if that makes sense. Yeah. And because it wasn't a natural thing for me, it's something that I had to learn for sure. Now as a teacher, I have the tools to reiterate that to a dancer, or as a choreographer, I have the tools to reiterate it to the dancer I'm setting on. Yeah. It's also made dance a lot more fun for me, like within my own movement. But like the point's never been for me to dance. It's always been to facilitate it for other people. Gotcha. And so like within school, it kind of just gave me vocabulary and like procedures and ways to just like get through to a dancer to help them flourish in what maybe they're called to perform, or maybe they're called to a similar pathway. But just like, it was really through learning it, you
Gotcha.
know,
Yeah.
like getting the tools to give the tools, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, that's good. But so you said something there. You said that you didn't feel like you were a strong dancer, or you didn't feel like you were meant to, take your career as a dancer, but you're more meant to facilitate it for other dancers. But I've seen you dance. You are a phenomenal dancer.
Thank you.
How did you get to that point where you're saying, I think I'm more of an educator than I am?
I feel like it's just kind of like, well, I will say performing, when you're told or when you learn you want to dance, or you feel that in the inside, the only thing that makes sense is to perform, because it's a performance art. And so I think for a long time that was the idol. Like, I was always chasing that thing, and like completely neglecting where I was really strong, which was in like the facilitation. And then I think like slowly it was just God stripping that idol from me, you know. And it's just funny. I know we'll get into it, but having 3 kids at the height of my career, I was 24 years old, probably the strongest dancer I've ever been, pregnant. Came out of that, I recovered. I was a year later, I was even stronger than before, pregnant. 8 months later, stronger again. And I mean, because you grow with wisdom, right? There's like a maturity to movement.
For
and
sure.
so when your physicality comes back from a pregnancy, you're just as strong as when you left. And so then he did it again. And now I'm 28 years old, and I'm like, I've grown so much in this other space. I've been given time to watch where I flourished in this other space. And so now I don't have the idolization of performing anymore. So I don't think that I'm not going to perform, I don't think that it's not something that can be used, but it's not the point.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious, how many people in the space do you feel like they idolize the performance side of things? Because I feel like as creatives, sometimes we get our motivation from outside, the extrinsic motivator. But how many people do you feel like actually, I don't know numbers, but percentage?
It has to be like 80%. Because I just, like, especially having worked with students, it's just like there's such a small group of people who are successful performers. I wouldn't say successful. That's the wrong terminology. Like, financially provided solely from performance.
Right.
And so like you're shooting for such a small bullseye, and it's kind of subjective at the same time. And so I think that over time of figuring out, am I going to get the job? Am I not going to get the job? Am I good enough? Am I not good enough? Which route? Broadway, Disney, TV, industry, NBA, like, what am I going to do? Figuring that out. There's rejection, there's trauma. Now your idol is, now there's trauma attached to it, and emotionality. And like, now it's just like, it can like kind of go downhill so fast. So I think people quit at that point before maybe they actually would get to the other side. And so I think it's a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot in there that you
Yeah,
said, and I
sorry.
think no, it's good. I think it goes beyond dance. For people that are listening to this, maybe you're not a dancer but you're creative. I think it's the same thing for all creatives in a sense. A lot of times we find our worth in what we do, when really we shouldn't be. It's in just who we are and who God has called you to be. That's where our worth should be placed. But a lot of the times, because sometimes we get to this part where like we're so good at what we do, and a lot of people give us the praise and accolades. Oh, you're really good, and so you find your worth in that. And then at some point, it's gonna happen where it's like either you have an injury or something happens in your family, or you're going through life where you're not performing at your best. What happens then? And that's where a lot of people quit. A lot of people leave.
Totally.
A lot of people go somewhere else and to do other things. But I know that in your company, Body's Contemporary Company, it's more than just dancing. You are trying to ingrain something within your dancers. What is that thing?
Everything is forward to Christ, always. I will openly talk like about God and about testimony, and using the show we're working on right now for specific. It's not explicitly saying God in the work. It's not saying it in the title. It's not necessarily even saying it in the snippet that explains the show. It's just in there because we've prayed over it. it's all about, like, from the heart of it, from the root of it, it's about Christ. And I like, if you pray over it and you do it with a certain integrity, I think it comes through to people in a way that sometimes might get them in a place they're not as on guard. When you say God, sometimes when you say Jesus, not that we shouldn't, because the power of Jesus' name is so powerful, but like whenever you just embed it at the root and you just kind of let your walk, it's like so powerful for some people because they have such a guard up with certain words. So it's like, if I can reach you from something that's creative and relatable and honest and raw, then you might ask, what, like, who are you dancing about? What are you dancing about? What was that dance about? You know, or they might even just be in tears and not even have any idea why they're in tears. And it's just like such a space for a testimony to come up. And when that testimony comes up, that's whenever God's introduced into their heart, because it's been introduced underneath and not like up against a wall. Does that make sense?
No, that's good.
So
that's really good. I met you after I was done dancing. Really, I had also same kind of similar thing. I self-taught dancer. Really, I love to dance at a young age, and went through this path of like discovering my talent when it came to dancing. I knew quite quickly that I wasn't I'm gonna be a part of this team and dance. I was definitely more of a freestyler that learned how to learn choreo. And then from there, I started teaching. I taught for like 6 years in the studio. And that was the same thing that I used to tell my kids that I was teaching. A lot of parents would actually come up to me and thank me because I wasn't teaching them the raunchy hip hop moves.
yes, the music matters, the moves matter.
All that, And I was wondering, like, this is interesting. That they were coming to me to actually thank me, because what you see out there is crazy. It is wild, But so moving on, you started your company. Now, obviously, like a lot of creatives, we go into this thing because we're passionate about it, because we have a gift with it. But then the business side is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Talk through us how you navigated through understanding business.
Yeah, so I feel like I got introduced through business, and during COVID, I started like a t-shirt company, which seems like, I don't know, like random, but it totally was, because dance was not happening. Yeah. So yeah, I had to learn, like, I see now God was teaching me little things about how to manage money, how to make profit on something, and, and so like learning those tools was really helpful. I then started working at a studio just as like a teacher at first, and then I eventually got brought on as like an administrative director position. And in that position, I was taught a lot through the people there, just like policy of a full running business. I had already had this little t-shirt company, so I understood it in my brain, my creative brain's version of what business should be. My Excel spreadsheets were like color coded and did not make sense. And then I come into this business and I'm working with other people who have to understand those spreadsheets or other numbers that I have to come into, and other processing languages or like love languages that we're now all collaborating in the space, figuring out how do we make this business flourish. And so I think I learned a lot in that. I think it was difficult in some places because I'm so creative. I'm really good at realizing marketing's important. I can make a really great ad. How do we translate that into a actual like number? How do we get that to become something? So yeah, I've partnered with them to help with the company, and they're partnering with me to help it be a nonprofit, because when you go nonprofit status, then you get a lot of other things to help you along the way. But yeah, it's all kind of been like time and place and wisdom of the people around me, and failing, a lot of failing.
No, that's good. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it said the most successful people are the ones that fail and fail quickly. They fail fast and learn from their failures.
Reckless.
Yeah. That's cool. So learning all this, right?
Yeah.
How did you translate that that was Students Lab, right? From there to your company?
So right now we are not profitable in any way. We just are still year 2, right? So we're still laying the floor work of influence. We are partnering with the studio heavily right now, so we're kind of collaboratively dealing with the like funds and stuff like that. So
Gotcha.
I right now I'm totally leaning on the wisdom of somebody else. I think because God has revealed to me that's not somewhere that I have the most strength or the most experience, I would say. And so I'll gain the experience, but I do have the experience in the dance part. So I'm kind of like leaning in the place where I'm not experienced. I'm taking that leadership, and then in the creative space, I'm kind of just like running, and you know, I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of like a prop. It's
Totally.
like helping me stay up.
Yeah, I think that's wisdom. I think a lot of times, obviously, people go into things without understanding it, and you learn as you go.
Yeah.
That was my story. I learned as I go. I had my dad that had a business, so I learned a lot from him.
Nice.
And I had other people around me that had businesses that I was able to ask questions, too. So I think it's always good to have some kind of mentor in a sense, that could show you the ropes and let you know, hey, let's try this.
Yeah.
Don't do this. You're gonna fall on your face if you do that.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing at all. So 2 years in the making. Yeah.
Yeah. This is our second season.
Second season.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you categorize that from first season to second season? Is it like a full calendar year?
Oh yeah.
Or more like a school year.
So I got pregnant early last season. So basically we went through my pregnancy. It was like 9 months. I like found out the first week that I was pregnant, and then the April was kind of the end of it. There's not a ton of summer work, so it doesn't necessarily need to happen during the summer either. Some people are traveling, and so that might be what happens again this year.
Yeah.
But we generally start in the fall, and then we go through the spring to like April, May. And we do a lot of local festivals. So when we're submitting to those local festivals, it's kind of dependent on them. Is it a summer festival, spring? If we get a summer, we'll do summer. If we do a winter, we'll do winter, right? But our like yearly show will be in the spring.
Gotcha. And is that something that you guys put on the show?
Yeah, this will be our first, and that's why I am so thankful for my experience at the Students Lab, because I've totally learned a lot of back end things. Like in school, they teach you how to learn light or like do lights and back of house flow, front of house flow. I already know the design aspect of getting tickets and posters and posts and the social media part. But then it's like, okay, but now we're looking at spreadsheets and staffing and how does that side work. I've definitely learned that at the Students Lab, and so going into this season, I feel like I've done all the things separately, and now it's just ours, putting it all together into one show. Yeah.
So I'm a creative director at Church for the Nations. We've hired you guys on to do some dances, put together some for our Christmas and Easter shows and whatnot, and it's been really cool. We got a new one coming soon. I'll talk to you offline for that. For Christmas, it's a pretty cool idea actually. It'll be good.
Dope.
But let's move into just so you were teaching a students lab as well, right?
Yeah.
While trying to get your company off the ground. And then you resigned, right? Is that official or you stepped down?
Yeah, so I stepped down. Okay. So I still teach. Okay. I still choreograph. I'm doing their like media merchandising right now, which is like super, super chill compared to what I was doing. Gotcha. But I was a director over all the competitive kids before. And
that's a lot.
I've stepped down from that. There's about 80 kids that I was overseeing.
Gotcha. So you stepped down from that and you're focusing more on media merchandising, you said?
Yeah, I think they have a lot of grace in realizing in the space I'm at right now with my family and stuff. Yeah. So they see that need within the studio, and so they've extended that opportunity for me. Yeah. Knowing that I do want more hours, right? I don't want to just be teaching 5 hours a week or 6 hours a week. So they're kind of keeping me in, and I'm just like more of a helping hand right now.
That's cool.
As I transition.
Yeah, that's fun. And so you made that pivot because of your growing family. Yes. Right? Yeah. All right. Let's go into that now. Yeah. You got 3 kids. Yes. Yeah. How has that impacted? I know you mentioned it briefly about like, you were dancing, you got strong, you got pregnant. Dancing again, you got stronger, you got pregnant again. Yeah. How has that just impacted your career as a dancer?
I think going into it's very scary because your body is your tool, right? With dance specifically. So I think that it was testing, or it did test me into trusting that this is the calling on my life.
Yeah.
I think in addition to that, it's de-idolized it in some way. It's refocused, because before, when you don't have a family and you just have this creative thing, it's like full send, obsessed. I'll do it until I wake up, till I go to bed, and at the cost of my health, I might not eat all day. You know, like it gets like kind of toxic for a lot of creatives. And I think as you have kids, it actually kind of brings order in some way. It like gives you it teaches you how to budget your time and your energy. And so that's what it's really done for my career. And I think in the long run, it'll make it more long lasting. It'll create longevity for it. And I'm hoping it inspires little girls to not be afraid to have babies, just because like your body goes through a certain thing.
Right.
So
you're and that's what I tell people, especially like when you're single, that's the time you have the most amount of time. Like, do what you have to do to gain the most experience, to gain the most knowledge, to do the thing.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be a point. You're gonna get married. You're gonna have kids. Your time shrinks. But to your point, it does help you manage your time better.
Yeah.
To understand how to structure whatever it is you're doing, and then it really helps you build maturity. For me, at least, when I had kids, I think that was like a light switch went on. Like, I can't keep working the way I'm working. I gotta find different ways and avenues to do it better, but faster, but also more intelligent, I guess, smarter.
Yeah.
Work smarter, not harder. And how, what did that look like for you when you came to that point?
Yeah, I think at first it didn't. I think there was a light switch internally, or like a flip, but I think that whenever you've committed to something and you're in the middle of the hustle, it's like now you have to shift your flow, right? And so at first it was at the cost of like the health of the family in some sense. But then you look at your baby and you look at yourself and you look at your marriage and your home. Like, how does your home look? Is your home in order? And like, if it's not, that's probably a sign. If you're not in order, that's probably a sign. I think that it took a little bit of time for that to, like, you kind of have to wake up, especially being the one, like, your body's going through a lot of changes. So you might just like kind of be in a fog, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you realize like, oh, this needs to shift. And that efficiency totally happened.
Right.
And I think you just learn to wake up a little earlier, go to bed a little later, put things away right away. I don't know. Like, it's just a different flow. Yeah. So it's new patterns, I guess.
Right. So what would you say, you have a little girl or guy, whoever, kind of like the same position as you, they've gone through this education of dance. They are either wanting to do their own thing or work for someone. What advice would you give them?
Build your brand. Build it. Like, especially in probably musicians, even probably with video, but video is easier to just like post on social. Dance, like, you'll just get lost in the studio. You'll just do a performance and not get a video of it. You'll just do a thing and not capture a single moment about it. And then, like, what do you have left? All you have is this paper resume that says a bunch of names and events that maybe that person knows, maybe they don't. And then you're at the mercy of if they're connected to the people you were connected to or not. And that could be a potential job, but social media sells so much. If you're posting videos, if you're posting photos, if you're posting your brand, even if it's just like one of you and your family, one of you dancing, one of inspirational moment, being relevant and being on people's feeds is so important, because if not, you're just going to end up folding and going, like, settling where you are. And if you're working at Starbucks and dancing on the side, that, like, it's going to be really hard to get out of that space if you're not convincing people that you're dope. Hire me. You know what I mean? Which kind of sounds exhausting, but
well,
but
how would you do it in a way that's not exhausting?
I think for me, it's hard because I'm a little old, like, I'm older. So cameras, like, weren't around when I was a kid in the studio. These kids now, they're used to just having their phone and snapping a photo and having it be candid, and it's fine. Just learning how to do that, I think. Just like being okay with just getting footage and like just Just get the content. You don't have to use it.
Yeah.
Improv in front of the camera, talk in front of the camera. Like, just be you. I think, especially for us who are a little older, we feel like we have to put on a face or put on a thing to be on social. But people are more invested in like a raw person or like a real person.
Right.
So just like do it. Do it afraid if you're nervous about being on camera.
Yeah.
Do it insecure if you feel like it doesn't look the best. Like
Right.
the growth is going to be a journey that people will invest into.
Totally. I think that's actually my journey into being in front of the video was actually my journey into having a production company was because I wanted to film myself dancing.
Nice.
That
Okay.
was the start of it all. So I was teaching dance, and I started. YouTube became a thing, and my first video on YouTube was in 2012.
Okay. Work.
A long time ago. I guess it's not that long. 12
years ago.
I guess
Yeah.
it's a significant amount of time. But that was the reason I started my company because
Okay.
I wanted to understand how do I get 3 different angles of myself doing the same choreography and then
Yeah.
put it together. And so I started doing that, and eventually I was like, okay, if I could do this thing for myself, I could do it for someone else, you know. And I always knew that, like, I love dancing, I enjoy dancing, but at the same time, I knew it wasn't the
Yeah.
thing I was supposed to build on, you know. So my journey was always finding what it was for me until I landed into video, and I was like, I could tell people stories visually. I could bring vision to life that is not even there yet, you know. And I enjoyed that part of it. And that was, to your point, get your camera. One thing I would say about creating content, right, is don't think about creating content. Just be the content.
Yeah. Just be.
Yeah. It's part of being human beings, right?
Yeah.
Just be, and the camera's right there. Right,
Right.
now, we are being the content, you
Yeah.
know, in the same fashion. So that's what I'll say about creating content. Now, let's swing that back because you're doing media merchandising for Students Lab.
Yeah.
Is that part, in a sense, play part in social media as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Let's-
social. It's I do the camera, I do editing a little bit. Sorry, were you gonna finish that statement?
No,
before I
go
just
for
go
it.
to Yeah. So I'm doing social for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like following their analytics. I'm figuring out which social medias are the most high quality, or not high quality, but conversion rate is the most important. Yeah, taking photos in class, editing those photos, getting videos in class, just like the reels, like,
Gotcha.
you know, the following the dancer thing. But kind of to your point, what you were saying is you start as a dancer. God, like, uses it all for our good, right?
Yep.
You can tell when it's a dancer behind a camera because of their movement and the cuts and the timing. Like, there's a flow. And then I think that, like, the rhythm of dance, like, kind of has it innately in you. And so I definitely do think picking up a camera, I'm learning the settings or whatever. I've done it on and off, like, for a while. But being a dancer, it's pretty easy to come into because you know
Yeah.
the flow
Right.
and, like, spacing and thirds. And you know how to frame a person in
Totally.
a shot. So,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So now, making it a little bit personal. How do you personally create content? Like, how do you go about it? What's your thought behind it? What do you choose? What format do you use, you know, for content?
I always bring it back to my why on every post.
Okay.
Why do I post? I am bringing every person that witnesses my work to God, whether it's subliminally or obviously.
Yeah.
So is the thing I'm posting something that represents God, directly or indirectly, you know? Is it something that represents the quality of dance that I want to be bringing forward? And am I showing myself as an educator, teacher, and not simply just a dancer, like just the mover? I feel like you have to use multiple different facets. You have to use reels, you have to use text, you have to use pictures, stories, right?
Yeah.
So there's the timeline that's a little more polished, maybe photos that were taken by a better camera, and then the stories that are super raw and like blurry and shaky and whatever. I don't think the kids follow that. Like my dancers, they would not follow that. They just be posting their most random, like their foot, you know, that's their posts. But whenever you're a business, it's a billboard. So if you were to look at my 9 posts, when you get on my page, if you look at my 9 top posts that I have, do you know what I do? And do you know that it's for God? And in my caption at the top, do you know what I do? And do you know it's for God? That's like kind of like the rhythm. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha. That's good.
Do you ever miss dance?
Do I miss dance? Whew. Actually, I do.
Do you
I
dance for like you?
Yeah, sometimes. You
Nice.
know, I'm coming up with this idea because my daughter loves to dance.
Yeah.
So, and I know that I've always had this thought that I'm always gonna come back to it in some kind of way.
Yeah.
So I think it is through that. I have an idea for social when it
Mhm.
comes to dance now because actually a lot of people that still follow me knew me when I was teaching dance
Yeah.
and dancing and all that. So I want to bring that back out in some kind of way, and I have an idea on how I'm gonna do it.
Is this
Me and my daughter
exclusive?
dancing together.
Oh, on
We're
a
gonna
video?
on a video. So I'm
Nice.
gonna try like maybe once a week. See what
Yeah.
happens with it.
Yeah.
I haven't started yet, but
She'll love it.
she
Time with
will.
dad doing
Oh
what he
yeah. Oh
loves.
yeah. She loves it. She even sits in there sometimes. She's like, "I'm gonna shoot a podcast." And she brings the
That's so
mic
cute.
and like she's talking in it. I'm like, who
Turn it
are
on.
you?
Turn it on. It might be gold.
I know. I will. It's funny. Yeah, but she loves doing that kind of stuff.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's
That's
good.
so cool.
Do your daughters dance yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old is like just started this year, like
Nice.
hardcore, like taking a couple classes or taking quite a few classes. But yeah, they just want to do what their parents do,
Yeah.
right? They just want to, they see me dance, they want to
They wanna do
do it
that.
too,
Yeah.
So
That's good, and that actually helps foster their own creativity.
Yeah.
And they find their own path,
Yeah.
with it. I'm actually on the journey of creating, I think either 5 or 7 types of creatives that I've come across in my X amount of years as
Yeah.
a creative, and one of them follows the pattern which you have a gift, but eventually you become more on the education base. You get your degree in whatever it is. Sometimes people in that path, they don't see themselves as creatives because I just have a degree.
Yeah.
It's just education. But eventually, turning that into a real life situation and real life experiences actually help foster and build on their creative gifts that they do have. Within your work, what kind of creatives do you feel like you've come across?
with explain, do you mean like the dancers themselves or
Yeah.
the collaborators, like the people you work with?
Either one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dancers are pretty impressionable, right? They're just there to learn. You kind of get two different kids that are really afraid and locked up, and there's like a lot of pressure internally to do super well, and other kids who are like recklessly abandoned and just tossing it, just like going for it, you know what I mean? So I do think that translates into us as adults, right? Who's willing to take a risk and who's willing to not take a risk, who's afraid of the repercussion and who's like, it's all forward, you know what I mean? So for dancers, I think there's kind of those two different people. And then it's kind of funny. It's the same with adults, but it's more refined.
Yeah.
You get the people who are like, it's all good. It'll work out, And then you get the people that are like, we need to be here at this time and do this at this and then this. And then here's the script. And, and you, as the performer role, you have to learn to
Both.
run with both. Yeah, you have to learn the directorship of both of those people. And it's so funny, sometimes they work together and then you have to figure out how to make the go with the flow person happy while you're getting the schedule done. And so you kind of end up dancing on a line.
Right.
So
You've worked with me.
Yeah.
Where would I fall in that?
super chill, super laid back.
True. I honestly think it's because it has to do with the person's personality as well. And again, I'm formulating all these ideas. I'm creating like a assessment in a sense that takes the DISC assessment. Have you done one of those? So it's the DISC assessment, and it translates that to your creative ability or creative style. And I think it has a lot to do with personality.
Yeah, like you sense what they need. So your discernment just must be super strong.
Yeah.
You just feel them out.
I do because, I lead a team of 5 other creatives, right? And each one of them, they're all different. And I have to know how to talk to each one of them
Yeah.
for them to understand what I'm trying to say.
Wait, I know this is your podcast, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course.
Because I feel like there's so much emotion in a creative and
there is.
passion and fire. How do you hone it in?
Man, that's a good question. I think it's helping them, number one, see that they do have that passion and fire, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But having them control that.
Yeah.
I think it's key. I had one creative way. It's gung ho. It's just I'm gonna run bullseye and just do this thing, and it's like sometimes you have to slow down, take a
Yeah.
breath, breathe, and again, it's part of personality because I've even seen that translate into things that if there is a troubleshoot moment, first thing is skies up, like just is
Yeah.
the way he delivers things or the way he talks is just like abrupt and disruptive in a way. And sometimes I have to remind him, hey, just take a breath, relax. It's not
all
the end of the
good.
world. Everything's gonna work out, kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know, so those kinds of people you have to bring them back to earth. And then there's the opposite that they take their time, and you have to like push them forward, right?
Yeah.
You have to know where they are. You have to know when to do it and how to do it. If you do it too soon, they're gonna quit. If you do it too late, they're gonna fall behind. You know.
Yeah.
So knowing when to do that and how to push them forward is also key. It's a dance. It's
Yeah,
like
totally.
it's like managing people. It's a dance. You're like, okay, I see this in you, but also I see this in you. This is a good part of you. This is a part that needs work. How do we bridge that gap?
That is hard.
Yeah.
That creative directorship is it. That is the role that I've been in the past couple of years. Has been so interesting because you're like, okay, I'm an artist. I do this art super well. I know it super well. I can teach it super well. And now you want me to manage other people? Right. That's not a skill that I've been working on, you know? So I can totally teach kids how to do a chasse or do a leap or whatever, but now you want me to manage other adults and their emotions and how they teach, and that is a whole different ballgame.
A whole different ballgame
Yeah.
because you would think that they would get it because they are adults.
Yeah.
But
we're all kids.
Yeah.
We're all just big kids.
Just big kids. Yeah, it's true. And then, you know, you have the, you know, same thing that we're talking about. You have the creative that has had the experience. Maybe they understand have the knowledge. They understand the knowledge, but they don't have real life experiences. Now you have to guide that person to understand, okay, you know the technical abilities, right? Now translate this to creativity.
Yeah.
Do not box yourself in, because I feel like when people go to class and go to school, they create a box around themselves. And then real life experiences is more about finding more of that creative ability that you already have.
Yeah.
And that's what I help that specific person do.
Yeah.
You know, is to find the creative gift within already that they already have. And then there's this other kind of creative, which is myself. I am the kind of person, like, I want to check out the lay of the land first before I do anything. I want to make sure I have all the information. And that's just me. My personality is that same way. I don't jump into things.
Yeah.
I relax first and I see what's happening before I go into it. You know.
That's so funny. On my way here, I was thinking about that, about how like the first 3 jobs we did together. I think you maybe said 4 words to me, just because you were like kind of observing, us, and then after that we started getting a flow. Like it was never not flowing, but it was like we both kind of were like just But when you have the right creative, it's fine. Like, all right, here, do your job. I'll do my job. We're good.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, like, I knew you were good at what you were doing. I didn't really have much to do. I knew you. So I work at a church. I knew you've been in the church, you know, to understand some of the ebbs and flows of church, culture of church. And so I didn't really have much to worry about. Now, if it was totally different, then I would be different as well.
Yeah, to be more like direct. Yeah. Discernment.
Yeah, for sure. So it's good. It's good.
Wisdom with experience.
So I'm trying to figure that out. And
that all sounds super interesting.
Yeah.
And something that I don't know what kind of person I like in your like layout I would be, but it sounds like a person like me that wants clarity, and like all of us as creatives, we want things to fit into like their box, probably people in general, and just like kind of being able to identify where you sit, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are have been so helpful maybe 5 years ago when I was going into my career path, or, you know, when you're going to school, like, should I go to school for this? What should I study? Should I study business or should I study the art side? Because both are going to be important in their career path.
That's true. Yeah. And if I was to guess where you fall in that, there will be 2 that I could highlight. The first one is, I feel like you need the parameters in order for you to create properly.
Yes.
You know, and I'll say even prior to that, I would say you were more of a free spirit. I'm just gonna do my own thing, and then I'll find my way.
Yeah,
Would you
totally.
say that's true?
Yeah, I just kind of like stumble along.
Yeah.
But if I know that I'm coming in with like, let's say somebody's like, if I'm on my own and I'm just like doing my own thing, it's not for something that's like a deliverable. Like I'm not going to be asked to have something done by a certain time.
Yeah.
If you're asking me to have something done by a certain time, I'm like, yeah, okay, give me a box to
Yeah.
color in,
So,
and
yeah.
I will color in it.
Yeah. Yep.
So totally.
Yeah. That's cool. So moving on,
Yeah.
we've talked through just a whole bunch of stuff. As your career goes in
Yeah.
dance and like how to find your path and find your way, if there was like, let's sum it up into like 3 steps, right? If you have a dancer, maybe new to this part of their life and walk experience, how would you guide them, to basically find their path and find where they could land?
Yeah. I think step 1 is like self-observe, like your patterns or what you're obsessing over. Because that will tell you a lot of what God's gifted you or like given you an act for.
Yeah.
So observe yourself. Maybe that's journaling. Maybe that's just like self-reflection or whatever. But if you look at what you're obsessed about, like that's step 1. Figure that out.
Yep.
Then ask God what he wants you to do with it. Because I think we know what we want to do with it. We see it and we get excited. And we're like, oh, it could obviously go this direction.
Yeah.
It can go here and I can end up here and I can end up here. And then generally it ends up that you end up way over here and you had no idea that's where you were going to end up. So just not necessarily asking God what's like the end all be all, but what's the next step? Should I go to school? So let's say you're fresh out of high school, you love dance, you're obsessed with it, you know you want to do it the rest of your life, then ask God what's the next step. Should I be going to agents and auditioning? Do I need to train more? Do I need to go to school? Do I need a mentor? And just becoming in the quiet place, bringing that to him.
Yeah.
And then I think third step is just move on whatever he told you to do. The first thing, like the first thing he says to do, just do it. Don't question it or analyze it. Think about what the world says about it. Like just do it and rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Do it over and over because that's what a career path is. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like I think that a lot of dancers do get stuck in this like, I'm pretty good. I'm young. I want to be a professional dancer. What's next? Okay, well, you've been training in contemporary, jazz, ballet, hip hop. Which one of those is the one that you find yourself coming back to every single time?
Yeah.
These other things are an asset, but take that thing. God, is this the thing? Yes. Okay, what do I do next? Go try it for Disney. Okay, I'll go try it for Disney. You didn't get Disney. Okay. Why didn't I get Disney? Like, what's the next step, God? And I feel like if you just let him follow, like, take each step, you're gonna have so many less moments where you're, like, having to undo things.
Right. That's true.
I don't know if you've had those, like,
I
moments where you're like, I have to unlearn everything I just
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, definitely. And I think my journey was I actually write this in this ebook that I wrote, right, about the next steps to begin. And it talks about if you're, especially a lot of creatives have this same thing, even with, as you're talking about dance, ballet, hip hop, contemporary, jazz, which one do I choose? Same with creatives. A lot of creatives have different outlets, like with you, it was music, martial arts, photography, dance. Which one do I choose? A lot of people coming out of college are the same way. It's like, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm good at this, I'm proficient in this. Which one do I choose? And I think there's a framework to help people understand that. Is number one, which one are you actually really good at? First. Number two, maybe you've already done some paid gigs. What were they? What did people pay you for?
Yeah.
In the first place. Number three, how passionate are you about this thing that you're doing as well? And then combine all of that together with your life experiences, and I feel like you can find the path in which you're supposed to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard this on another podcast that you said, but just like to edify it, yes, all of everything that you just said and all those other things, those other gifts that you had are supporting that gift. They're not autonomous. They're not like something that functions outside of this gift.
Totally.
Like in bodies. I make our merch. I take our photos. I take our videos. I
Those
use
are
the
all
marketing.
experiences,
I need
you know.
all of it. I
Yeah,
need every single part of it. God does not give you anything that goes to waste.
exactly. It doesn't give you a gift just to give you a gift. It gives you a
Right.
gift because you're gonna use it eventually at some point.
Yes, exactly.
But also you have to know how to structure it and really find how to use all of it.
Yeah.
Without being so scattered.
Yes.
All over the place.
To elaborate on that, there's talents, right? I think you've said this in a podcast too, but there's talent. So like dance is your talent. And then you have to hone in on that talent and season that talent,
Right.
like help that talent grow. But then there's gifts, there's discernment, there's there's wisdoms, and then there's fruits. And these gifts are also given to you outside of your talents. So if you have a ton of passion and your talent, like that could be your vice, but it could also be your biggest, like if you partner that with the fruit of patience, that could be the most powerful gift that you have. Or like if it's dance and it's a discernment, but you are like, and then you can partner with fruit. I just think all three of those things come together. So united,
That's good. That's actually a framework in a sense that there's always two things happening, right? There's the good part of it and there's the bad part of it. You don't have a one-sided coin.
Yeah.
There's always a double side of it. Even I listened to this guy called Myron Golden and say something about a tree. A tree grows two ways. We only see the tree coming out, but the roots are actually growing as well underneath. So there's two things happening at once.
Yeah, that's
And
so good.
to your point is, if you have the passion, which could be a really good thing, could also be a bad thing.
Yeah.
You also have to exercise patience, which is a fruit of the spirit.
Yeah.
How do you really guide your passion with patience?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's
Totally.
really good. That's really good. All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to say that you haven't shared yet?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Just go for it. You learn as you go, kind of thing.
Yeah, fail
That's right.
forward.
Fail forward. That's good. Where could people find you if they want to continue to follow your story?
I am on Instagram. My username is the RanDee Madison. I post on YouTube mostly just my work, but you can find me mostly on Instagram.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us here in the Creative Den.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so
Appreciate your
much.
time. Like we always say, your creators create something, so go create.